Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. I'm your host, Dave Vance. Our guest tonight is Michele Reneau, who is challenging incumbent Patsy Hazelgood in the State House District 27, which is Chattanooga and Signal Mountain area in southern Tennessee. Let everybody know up front, I'm having some vision issues. I had a retinal tear a little over a couple weeks ago and am still having some problems. So didn't know it was going to be that bad until I got here tonight, but we're going to get through it, and I do appreciate your patience. And we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to skip over some of the things that I intended to announce. I will do the announcements and updates after the interview with Michele Reneau. She is in this race to win it, and she has a very impressive bio. I would encourage you to visit her website and check out all of her background. And so we're going to get right into this. And Michele, tell us a little about yourself and why you're running.
Thanks, Dave. I am first the daughter of a two-time Vietnam War veteran, and my mother, who was a legal immigrant from South Korea. My parents met in South Korea while my dad was serving in the U.S. Army. I'm married to my husband. We've been married for 20 years this year, and we have 5 children. Wow. We have lived in the Chattanooga area for 15 years now. And the reason why I decided to get involved in this race is back in 2017, I testified in the Senate and in the House subcommittee hearings on a food freedom bill. And a senator afterward told me, "You did a really good job defending that bill. You ought to run for your representative seat because she's not conservative." And that just planted a seed for me at that time. I really started to pay more attention to what was going on in Tennessee, the General Assembly, when my church closed and when my gym closed, but then liquor stores were open. And also, like many other parents during COVID, began to see sort of leftist policies that were creeping into Tennessee through indoctrination rather than education. My biggest concern is if that Tennessee legislature is complacent on these issues or continues to keep playing defense on these, it's going to be too late. We don't have 5 or 10 years to try to take back ground. We need to be taking back that ground now. And we need legislators who are not afraid to stand up against these progressive policies.
So
Go ahead. When I started paying closer attention to Representative Hazelwood's voting records, it was clear to me that her voting record on many issues just did not match my values. The biggest issue, I think, facing states across the country is this issue of illegal immigration. It's creating a crisis that affects affordable housing, education, and the state budgets, and just the vast amount of entitlements that are being given out. I was so surprised to learn that she voted against a bill that would have prohibited sanctuary cities in Tennessee. And then given that the invasion of the border and some of the crime and safety issues that often come with illegal immigrants infiltrating our cities, I was shocked that she voted against the constitutional carry bill, which is our basic right to defend ourselves and our families. So that's why I'm here.
So has she voted the right way on anything having to do with illegal immigration that you know of?
This year, I will say, it's actually the beauty of primaries and why it's important to primary incumbents. It often changes their election or their voting patterns during election cycles. So we did have some illegal immigration bills this session where I personally approve of her vote on them. So it's important to in the nature of the competitive spirit and the democratic American spirit, to challenge incumbents to increase that accountability to constituents.
Yeah, knowing you have an incumbent at the end of the session will make you think a lot more about your vote, especially if you're getting pressure from the Chamber of Commerce, or if you're getting pressure from maybe the speaker or the governor on something, whether it be illegal immigration issues or whatever. It seems to me way too many of our elected officials at state level get up there and they forget who they're there to represent. And they act as if they are the representative from that district, but they're actually there for the chamber, for the governor, or for the speaker. rather than the people that sent them there. There seems to be a lot of that. And so just having a challenger, it can make a big difference in an election year.
I agree.
So what are some of the things you'd like to see the state do in reference to illegal immigration?
I think the biggest thing we need to do is repeal a lot of the incentives that they've gotten. There is a bill, actually, Patsy did also vote in favor of giving illegal immigrants in-state tuition. The incentives that we offer them just make it really attractive for them to come here. We need to repeal some of these incentives. We need to require work authorization for everyone, because if they can't come here and get a job easily, then they'll go someplace else. And that is the state's job, to protect its citizens and to protect our resources for those who are here legally or Tennessee residents and citizens.
You know, a lot of people say in reference to the whole job thing, well, they're doing jobs that we can't get anybody else to do. And it's almost as if, okay, since the business is struggling to find somebody to do this job, we're going to break the law in order for our business to prosper. We're going to hire somebody that we know is not legal, and a lot of people don't understand this. They will find this out more in the upcoming weeks. A work authorization does not change the status of illegal immigration, of an illegal immigrant. Just because you have a work authorization. Most of the people coming across the border now are being given a work authorization from the Biden administration, or getting them soon thereafter, but they are still illegal aliens. So when these businesses hire these people, they're just creating more. I mean, our state can't shut down the border, but we can do everything possible, in my opinion, to make Tennessee the place that the illegals don't want to come to, instead of the place that illegals want to come to.
I agree. We should definitely be doing more. I don't have all the answers, but I am certainly willing to collaborate with folks who have great ideas. But I do want to see tougher laws against illegal immigration, and really more so for our resources to be put towards our citizens. We have homeless veterans that we should be taking care of first. We have a lot of issues here that we can take care of before we extend that to those resources to people who have broken the law by violating the federal immigration law.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a slide here that's got some of your other issues. Now, these are not all your issues. You do have other issues on your website, so I encourage everybody to go to the main website so you can get a better idea, electmichele.com. But these are some of the top ones you've got on there. And so oppose taxpayer dollars for corporations. You want to talk about that one a little bit?
Sure. This is such a sticky issue for many folks because they feel like government's role is to increase, jobs and whatnot. I personally believe government's role is to secure our rights. That is the first and primary role. We should let the free market dictate these items. And particularly when it comes to corporations, the problem is that government should not choose winners and losers. And when they're giving $900 million to Ford, the Blue Oval plant, and then we see now, I think a lot of people saw before the problems with the electric vehicle operation and its viability, but for them to do that, and now we see that Ford is losing $1.3+ billion a quarter, and it's possible that they will not even be able to finish out the fruition of the building out of this plant. What happens to all that lost taxpayer money? We've paid it. We're on the hook for it. And I don't think that's fair to the citizens of Tennessee, our hard-earned dollars going to that, nor is it fair to small businesses who are really the lifeblood of any economy. And we're not giving enough to help small businesses.
And of course, there's the money we gave for the Titan Stadium. I'm not sure what was in the budget this year, but I'm sure we had another corporate giveaway in some way, shape, or form. And, Republicans used to say, that's not the kind of thing we do, that, you're supposed to be, as a business, you're supposed to be self-sufficient, not getting taxpayer dollars. I don't know when that changed, or when the party thought it became their job to create jobs rather than to create the situation where jobs are more likely to occur.
Exactly. we definitely need to be doing more right now. I think that we can be doing a lot to encourage small businesses, particularly young people, to start small businesses. If we're going to be putting money or giving tax breaks, it should go to those folks where we can help them get off their feet, especially out of new families, getting out of college. The job market is definitely different from what it was just a few years ago. And I think the spirit of entrepreneurship is such a beautiful thing that we should be encouraging more of.
Yeah. Maybe even some of those non-essential jobs the state government declared a few years ago during the COVID scam. I mean, if you're going to be trying to use it, maybe for some of those guys, the little guys, if that's what you're going to do. But I just think they should. I don't agree with giving money to businesses really of any size. If we could put that slide back up there, some of your other issues there. Ensure taxpayer dollars are for citizens and legal aliens rather than illegal aliens. You want to hit on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much hit on that. The problem with illegal immigration, well, not the problem. One of many problems is the crime and safety issues that come with it. We don't know who's coming across the border as it is. We certainly, are creating many crises here in Tennessee. In fact, Red Bank and Eastridge here in my district, well, not Eastridge in my territory, but in our area in Chattanooga, used to be sort of the hub for affordable housing here, and it no longer is. And many people have told me when I go out now, it no longer looks like what it did just 5 or 6 years ago. It is the population has changed, the demographics has changed. It largely looks like uh, illegal immigrants, and I don't know if they are or not, but to many people, they see this Hispanic demographic that is largely occupying these areas. They are, piling up 10, 15 people in a house and a home that might normally rent for, $1,100 or $1,500, which would be affordable. But landlords have figured out with these guys, you could probably charge $500 or whatever a head. So they're making a significant, the higher amount of rent on these homes, and it's a better business for them. And so that is creating this affordable housing crisis. I did read recently at the federal level, someone had said if we could remove every illegal immigrant out of the United States, we would solve the affordable housing crisis. So it's affecting families. I know several people that I've spoken to already have said that they have children in their 40s that make really good money and they can't afford a house right now. And to me, as a former realtor, the American dream, that is the gateway to it. And I hate that there are people who aren't able to achieve that even after achieving some certain level of success in their careers.
Yeah. And citizens that are here legally, or even legal aliens that came here, did it the right way, and now they can't afford something that
Right.
it's artificially out of their reach because of government policy.
Yes.
And of course, there's increased health care, and the hospitals end up taking a lot of the emergency rooms are full,
Yeah.
and then a lot of times we end up with issues with the schools because now all of a sudden you have this influx of kids, and of course
Yeah.
that's not easy to plan for. Especially, I think Chattanooga was one of the destinations that they were just showing up overnight in, right?
Yes, we had busloads of people that were being dropped off at the Chattanooga airport. We've seen them. We've heard. I have personally read of people reporting at the Tennessee-Georgia line, people being dropped off. It's there. It's definitely. It's here. It's a very big issue, and I think in a large part of my district is somewhat I would call it suburbia, and so not everyone sees it until you go into more of the city, or in certain pockets of the city where it becomes more obvious. There was a huge, somewhat of a scandal where there were children who were being housed in Chattanooga, where they were children who didn't speak English, so I assume that they were not legal aliens or legal residents, and they were being abused. So I have great concerns about why this is occurring here, the potential trafficking of children that it could be going on. I think we need to have some serious penalties for folks who may be caught either trafficking these children or bringing illegals in, or it's it's just a travesty to see that children are being taken advantage of. Um,
And our state could do a lot more. And they, most of the leaders, Bill Lee said he was opposed to illegal immigration. I haven't seen much sign of that. They sign on to these lawsuits with these other states, but we have policies that encourage them to come here. Now, they did, as of this past week, and we'll talk about this on the show more in upcoming weeks, they did basically revoke the law passed in 2022 by Shane Reeves and Bob Freeman that gave professional licenses to illegal aliens. So that law is no more. Senator Roberts carried that, and so that's good news. I don't know how Representative Hazelwood voted on that, but that's one of the things that was good, but we definitely need to do more to discourage them from coming here. And if we could put the slide back up. And once again, bear with my vision for the night. See, protect our families, defend the right to protect our families.
yes. So, there's been a lot of talk about gun control and red flag laws and, the safety issues that come with illegal immigration. It's certainly a concern that people are looking to create control over firearms, primarily because criminals don't listen to those laws. And really what we have here is a problem. And at least we can talk about the Nashville shooting casing. We don't know the details because that manifesto hasn't been released, but we certainly can see there is a growing mental health crisis. And instead of talking about disarming people who or law-abiding people who have the right to defend themselves and their families, we really need to address the heart of the issue, which is this mental health crisis. And we really need to know the details of that manifesto so that we can actually understand what was going on. I do think that we're creating some of these problems in mental health because the gender ideology has been lying to children, and they are taking hormones and testosterone. In this case, I believe that is creating sort of this manic, aggressive behavior that we just haven't ever seen before. And I think that we're just the discussion is pointed in the wrong direction. And we know from history, I don't want to be an alarmist about it, but we do see it in history where disarming the population, what it leads to later on. And again, just going back to this idea that criminals do not obey these laws, only law-abiding citizens do. And every time, well, I shouldn't say every time, often when I hear a story about a bad guy, we often hear of a good person that happened nearby that was able to arrest the situation because they were caring and were able to operate themselves in a manner that was able to view the situation or assist in putting a bad guy down or yeah. So the discussion has gone in so many of the wrong directions without thinking about really where do we put the blame. And if we take away the guns, it'll be something else. It'll be knives. It'll be, rocks. It'll be whatever. And we see, I think it's Australia has this, or maybe it was England, where they actually have drop boxes now for knives. They are asking you to turn your knives in if they're longer than so many inches.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
we really just have to, I believe that the founding fathers were so brilliantly inspired in the document and in the things that they codified for us in our Constitution and Bill of Rights. And I think I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, and one of our favorite things to do is to visit the Battery downtown. And there are cannons lining the Battery in front of these, now multi-million-dollar homes. But even during that time, the founding fathers never said, you can have the right to bear arms except cannons. There were people that kept cannons in their front yards for centuries, and they're the ones there, of course, are closed up, but they were accessible and able to be used if needed. So they never put restrictions on when this right ever was no longer valid. Right. Same with really all of even free. We could talk about free speech right now. We've got this bill in Congress that they're trying to limit that. But we've had that even here in Tennessee with trying to suppress grassroots, where they were going to have to the incumbent protection bill. And it was kind of this effort to silence organizations, nonprofits who were putting candidates' names out there prior to an election that they would have to disclose their finances. And then there's been many other bills that work to potentially, go against the freedom of speech, like the Common Carrier Bill, which supposedly would have prevented censorship on social media for Tennessee citizens during elections specifically. That bill was born out of the 2020 season, and that bill failed also. And Patsy Hazelwood did vote against that bill in committee, and that bill came back up again last session and still didn't get to push through a committee.
Now explain that legislation that you were just talking about.
The Common Carrier Bill.
Yes.
Okay, I can't explain the finite details of it, but essentially the bill would have prevented censorship in social media because of some common carrier. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to misspeak about it because it's a little bit more complicated, but it would have just prevented censorship on social media. And there was some federal questions about how that happened through the FCC and how the state could be separated out from that in order to just protect Tennessee. But overall, I do see a need to protect our right to free speech, whether it's on social media, and furthermore, as it relates to privacy, online privacy especially. There's a growing concern about privacy issues in general in the digital world.
Oh yeah, it's getting to be more of a problem all the time. And it's a shame that with everything we have going on in our country, you mentioned the invasion of illegal aliens. It hasn't been that long since Black Lives Matter was burning stuff down and killing people. We have fewer cops everywhere. I mean, they made a war on cops, and so now we have fewer. We're in a more dangerous society, and yet it's like they don't want us to be armed. They don't want us to be able to defend ourselves. And here in Tennessee, under Bill Lee, we have this partial constitutional carry, which is not really constitutional carry. And even though we have the Supreme Court decision, the Bruin decision that says, hey, if the restriction didn't exist in 1791, you can't do it now. Our state has drug their feet for 2 years on that. We still don't have real constitutional carry in Tennessee. So it's really irritating with all the failures of our federal government that our state is not stepping up and protecting our rights and promoting our rights. I mean, I don't understand people that don't realize the threat, all the things that the federal government does, the policies that are a threat to us on a daily basis, yet our state is not stepping up. It's like they're in the twilight zone, as if they're not aware of the things that are going on. So that's pretty frustrating. But that is definitely something that everybody needs to keep in mind. Our state should step up for us to push back on federal overreach. And I don't think that was on your list of things, but I think you do have something about that on your website in terms of pushing back on federal overreach. What are your thoughts on that? Where are you at on the 10th Amendment?
Yeah, so going back to the design of the Constitution, the federal government was created by the states, so they are inferior to the states. The states absolutely should retain all the power and authority, and more importantly, they should act like it. And unfortunately, I feel like the process of ignoring unconstitutional laws would simply be to just disobey them, non-compliance, by both citizens and government alike. But we did see during COVID that the governor did not, didn't take a stand and didn't do that. And, he didn't reject the unconstitutional federal laws, but rather sort of enforce them. And I know a lot of people feel like we had it really good in Tennessee compared to other states, and I suppose we did. But as conservative as we claim our state to be, both the governor and the Republican legislature, I do feel like that there was some failure in that. I I love Bud Hosey's bill, and with the idea of that if the governor doesn't do what he should do, that there should be the legislative process should have some way to address that.
You're
I do
talking,
think.
talking about his nullification bill?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm no expert in that, but I certainly respect Representative Holdy greatly. He's always been just a wonderful conservative voice for so many issues.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have worked on that bill.
Yeah. Well, he actually believes what the Constitution says, unlike many of the people we have in elected office. And I'm glad on that topic. So during COVID, in October of 21, during the special session, or one of the 2 or 3 special sessions we had, to the legislature's credit, not the governor because he didn't sign it, but to the legislature's credit, the House and the Senate, they did a joint resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 9005. It's on the tncss.weebly.com website. That's the website that was created for ensuring that this nullification bill gets passed. And we'll talk about that some more later when I do my updates and announcements. But if you go there and if you look under, I think it's state action, I can't recall, but SJR 9005, the resolution, and I'm pretty sure even Representative Hazelwood probably signed it because almost every Republican in the House and every senator in the Senate signed this resolution, and it was directed towards the federal government. It had to do with all the federal overreach in relation to COVID. And what it said was, and this is my paraphrase, we have the right and the responsibilities, since we take an oath to both the state and U.S. Constitution, to nullify unconstitutional federal action. And we are not limited to court action. That's what it said. Now, they haven't done anything really to put that into effect, but I agree 100% with that statement that they made in their resolution. Kudos to them for passing that resolution. Now we just need to see them actually put something into law to create some processes. But from what I understand, you're saying that that is something that you would support as a representative, as a state representative.
100%.
Great, great. Like I say, I don't know how she voted on it. I'm almost positive she voted for it because I don't recall anybody in the House that didn't vote for that. So it's a good place to start. And yeah, you're right about Bud Halsey. He is one of our better reps for sure. If we could push traditional family values, you hit on those a little bit with the whole gender ideology garbage. Anything else you want to add to that? Anything else? Maybe some of the garbage that's being pushed in our schools?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that this hits on. I think about, people move here to Tennessee and they think it's so conservative. But there is this leftist agenda pushing across the country. And I see it here in Tennessee. And I see the battle lines and I can't unsee them anymore. And the idea of going back to upholding traditional values, I think about this man in Tennessee who is now facing 11 years in prison simply because he was practicing his faith. He was praying outside of an abortion clinic. This particular federal law that he was arrested under is not equally upheld across the lines here on the other side of folks. I think about during COVID how churches were closed and how there were countless people who were requesting religious exemptions for the vaccine, and that was denied. I think about the parents who learned about this unbelievable indoctrination that was going on in school. Maybe COVID was a blessing in disguise for that reason alone, that parents who were forced to be, doing school at home and online could actually see some of these things. But, parents don't have access to this curriculum. I actually was asking for a particular school's curriculum and they kept directing me to the website, but I went to the website and it wasn't there. And it was just this big circle where I couldn't get information. Parents should have all the authority to direct their children's education. And they can't do that without having information. This should be curriculum at a minimum should be completely transparent, that it should be online. And then I think about just the traditional values in the past of how, the Constitution, I feel like has always been so revered. Certainly for me, having a father and a husband and father-in-law and brothers-in-law who served in the military and have fought and given up so much for um, what we believe, and how our rights, I feel like, are just being shaved off a little bit at a time. And I don't understand why everyone doesn't see it. I certainly see it. I'm concerned about um, this sort of move away from the traditional values of believing that God is the one who gives us rights and it's the government's role to protect and secure those rights. Um, I think a lot of the social moral decay that we see is because we've moved away from these traditional values, and suddenly uh, it's in our face in a way that it's hard to ignore. Although I do hear from a lot of people who prefer to ignore it. But yeah, my top issues and concerns can be summed up by my messaging, which is defending faith, family, and freedom. I really believe that this is something that we do need to go on the offense for in Tennessee to protect our Tennessee values.
Well, you
And I
sound
just,
like
I
you.
just, I just,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead.
I said, you sound like you will do that. You sound like you're actually interested in doing that. And so you have spoken in several places already, I'm assuming?
Well, I've visited many doors, been knocking on doors and talking to people across the district. Um, and I have been to various Republican meetings. Some of those are, a little uncomfortable because it is it's not easy to primary an incumbent. No one likes to be primaried. I really believe, though, this is just part of the American democratic spirit to contest incumbents, and we see the value of that when we see their voting patterns change. I'm excited because overall, the people I've spoken with at the doors, they're excited to see a fresh new face that wants to get involved, and a face that understands the concerns of the people and the gravity of what's at stake for our state and for our children. The demographics in my area are overwhelmingly for voters who vote in primaries. They are generally over 60 years old. And so I hear a lot about their concerns for their grandchildren. Um, when I've spoken to people about Representative Hazelwood's record, the response has ranged a good bit. I mean, I think there has a little bit of disbelief, a little bit of shell shocked in some cases. And I can't really blame people because it's not easy to wade through someone's record or to really pay attention. I think oftentimes, you know, and I can say this myself. I certainly just read what I saw in the media, and those are just simply what they want us to see. The press releases are just copied verbatim, and so we don't really get to see what's happening behind the scenes or follow some of these important bills. I will say, Gary Humble and Brandon Lewis of Tennessee Conservative News and Tennessee Stands, they have brought a different level of transparency to that, and his people are paying more attention. So I do think that is wonderful for our state, for people to have an opportunity to get a Reader's Digest version of what's going on every day at our legislature.
Yeah. Well, I will say that, and yes, they do bring up some good points. That there's some of the publications out there won't print much that's controversial in regards to voting records or certain issues, but I will give. If you want to know, you can find out. Because the bottom line is our state does have a pretty decent website. Now they do, I think, a few fishy things on it sometimes, but you can go in there, you can actually check the vote. And so, it used to be years ago, if it wasn't in the paper or on the news, you didn't know. And so it was so easy for elected officials to come in and blow smoke at a meeting and tell you all the great things they believe and what they're fighting for and so on and so forth. But you can really dig down and you can see on the website how they voted, and you can go back and look at the video in the committees, and that's where the real story is told, is in the committees. But
Yes.
I'm sure, especially the older people, when you tell them these things about her votes, I'm sure they're really in shock because they may have known her for years. and they may listen to what she says, but you got to watch how they vote, what they do when they're actually in Nashville. So I'm glad you're getting some attention. So overall, you've gotten a pretty positive response so far.
Yeah, I have been so pleased at how easy it has been to talk to people actually. It's a little nerve-wracking initially to start to make those first few door knocks, but people really want to know. They really I feel like while the legislative website is very easy to navigate for someone like me who is interested in it and is kind of keeping track of some of the bills, sometimes I think there was one year I said they put forward 8,000 bills or something. It's
Yeah,
an enormous amount to
yeah,
wade through.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then you have amendments that are difficult to follow, and then you have caption bills which are not listed on there, and there's this backend website you have to go to, and you have to know what day the committee is on to get to it. It is not easy to track bills. It's almost a full-time job. I feel like I certainly have spent a lot of time over the last couple of years looking at it and trying to follow the bills that are important to me. So I can't, and I had free time to do it. I can't imagine someone who just is was working a full-time job and doing all the things, being able to be committed to do those things also. So
Right.
um,
But the
but
bottom
yeah,
line is,
overall
you can back up what you're saying about her record, though. That's the point. You know about her record because you've done this research. You've gone on the sites and looked up, and you know what her votes are. So you're not fabricating anything.
No, I mean it's definitely right there for you to see. In fact, there was every time I talked to somebody, it was as we talked about different issues. There were so many bills to talk about that I created a website, howpatsyvotes.com, so you can go to it. You can click on the year of the vote that I was concerned about, and you can look at the actual bill, and then you can click votes and see how she voted on that bill.
Wow, that's great. How far back does that go?
I didn't do all the bills. I just, I would probably, I mean, I think the oldest one I found was maybe 2017 or so. So it's not all of them. It's just the ones that, as I was looking for certain issues that I felt like conservatives would be concerned with.
Yeah.
I looked up different topics. When you go back into the archives, it is a little more cumbersome to
Yeah.
go back through
Yeah.
previous legislative sessions to find that information.
Well, you sound like you definitely know what to look for. Any big events for you coming up? Any fundraisers or events like that you want to let the audience know about?
I do have several meet and greets and fundraisers scheduled. I do need to put those on my website for the most easiest access to those. I couldn't rattle off the dates to you at this point. But people can go to my website and click the join Team Michele tab at the top, and they can fill out the various ways they would like to help. Certainly, fundraising is always an ongoing effort. As a candidate, we need to raise money for signs and mailers and all the things that go with running a campaign. It's much more expensive than people realize. We always can use volunteers and folks who are willing to help. I am blessed with some of the best volunteers already. I just couldn't be more pleased with the group that I have started out with. But we certainly could always use more volunteers as well.
Yeah. Hunting rhinos is not cheap or easy, so you definitely need some help. Anyway, well, hey, any other closing thoughts? Anything else you'd like to say?
Well, the only thing I want to say is and I kind of said it already before, but I just want to reiterate it. I don't seek to attack Representative Hazelwood per se. Her voting record doesn't reflect, I don't believe, any more what conservatives in the district want. I certainly can appreciate her service over the last 10 years, but I do feel like as her tenure in service has progressed, she doesn't align with the traditional values that perhaps maybe she started with when she, in the beginning. And so as that gap has widened, it has created a greater sense of urgency for me and my husband. We feel like we cannot wait any longer to kind of get in this fight for the sake of our children and for the future. We anticipate Tennessee being our home for the long term, and we love it here, and we are vested in making sure that this place is the place that we want to continue to raise our children, and that our children want to stay. We would love to have our children be able to get jobs here and stay close by. So, you know, there's a time for not for me, but there are times for people where choosing the middle road sometimes, does work. I just think that we can't do that anymore, and so that's why I'm in this fight, and I believe that if we don't take back ground, and really preserve the conservative values of Tennessee, I just don't believe that we'll have a Tennessee that we can be proud of any further. Friends of mine who've moved here from other places have said, especially California, and a recent friend of mine who is a former legislator in Connecticut said, she was really disappointed thinking Tennessee was conservative, and then coming here and getting involved and reading the bills, that, she just left the place that she doesn't believe there's any more hope to help, to come here thinking, wow, I am going to have to really roll the sleeves up and get involved. So yeah, I just want people to realize that we really are in for a battle over a rich heritage and a gift that we have inherited from our founding forefathers, and we have to fight and get involved. Liberal corporations give tons of money to their causes, and conservatives are not known or great for necessarily doing that. And it's really time for us to put our money where our mouth is and support good policies, good candidates, good organizations who are doing the hard work for us. And hopefully we can keep Tennessee conservative and in the direction that we want to raise our families in.
What you just said about people coming from other states, coming to Tennessee thinking they're going to be in a conservative heaven and finding out it's not the case, I hear that over and over. Whether they're coming from California, New York, you pick it. They come here and they're like in shock. And the sad thing is we got a Republican supermajority. We've had it for over 10 years. We've had Republican governors for years now. And it's hard. It's hard work to get anything really conservative passed through our legislature. So yeah, we've got to do some major changes up there. People have to stay engaged. It takes time, but people have to learn how to research on their candidates and see how they're voting, because they'll tell you what you want to hear. They know exactly what to tell you during the campaign, but it's what they do when they get up there that counts, and that's when you really need to watch them. The campaign is just that's like a job interview. Then you got to evaluate them on the job, and way too many people don't do that. So, hey, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it, and good luck to you. And we'll put your website up there one more time and encourage people to go. And I like to say these issues she's got more issues than this on there. These are just a few we picked to talk about tonight. And once again, I appreciate you coming on. Glad to have you anytime.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. You have a good night. If you want our state to stand up against federal overreach, the best way to do that is to help pass the nullification bill sponsored by Senator Janice Bowling and Representative Bud Halsey that will be back in the legislature this next session. And if you can go to go to tncss.weebly.com/action, call to action, download the petition to send to your rep and your senator. And you can also print these out and pass them out to your friends or take them to different events. You can do it online, but they need to hear from us and know that we want a nullification process bill passed. The federal government's not going to get any better. DC will never fix DC. Regardless of whether we get Trump back in office or not, we're not going to have him for long. We got to push back. We have to have our states standing up for us. They're not going to do it unless we force them to. The Gibson County GOP Reagan Day Picnic is Saturday, June 8th at from 4 to 7. Tickets are $50 per. The last day to buy them is May 25th. They'll have ribs and chicken with all the trimmings. And the speaker is Mr. John DeBerry. He's senior advisor to Governor Lee, one of the few good ones he has up there. The event will be held at 88 Spring Creek Highway in Medina, Tennessee, home of Alicia Owens. Visit the website, Gibson County TNGOP, to get your tickets. Thanks to everybody for listening to us tonight. Hit the like button, subscribe button. And tomorrow night, our guest will be Sarah Maccabee. She is a J6 wife, lives in Nashville, and she's going to tell her story and talk about the organization that she helped co-found. And so we're looking forward to that. That'll be at 7 p.m. And that's it for tonight. Good night from Paris, Tennessee, that is.